Back here in Austin, top leaders at the Austin Independent School District say more than 100 employees and valued programs will be impacted by the U.S. Department of Education's delay in releasing billions in federal funding. Joining me now to talk more about this is KXAN investigator Kelly Wiley. Kelly, welcome and thanks for being with us as always.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about why the federal government is deciding to withhold some of these federal education dollars.
Well, first, state agencies across the country, including the Texas Education Agency, got an email on June 30th from the U.S. Department of Education. And the note said that the federal government is reviewing 5 grant programs. And until that review is complete, they would not be releasing this federal funding. What is important to know about the timing of all of this is the state and school districts across the country were expecting these funds to be released the next day. So June 30th, they got the email. They were expecting those funds to be released that very next day. School districts have already adopted budgets where they've been relying on those federal funds being there. But here are just some figures to consider as you're trying to understand the impact. Nationwide, these 5 programs funnel about $6.2 billion into school systems across the country. For Texas alone, it amounts to more than $660 million, most of which directly go to those school districts. Austin ISD, they're estimating the impact will be about $9 million that they were counting on being there. Now, in this note from the federal government to TEA and other state agencies, the federal government did give some insight into why they're doing this. They said, and I'm going to read here, that they're committed to ensuring taxpayer resources are spent in accordance with the president's priorities and the department's statutory responsibilities.
Okay, so you mentioned those 5 programs here. What do those dollars go toward doing?
Okay, so the delay impacts, again, like you said, 5 federal formula grants and discretionary programs. One of those programs is to help support students from migrant families. And specifically, these are students whose families perform temporary and seasonal work in agriculture and in fishing industries. Another one of these grants supports after-school programs. So those things that we rely on all the time for our kids. And specifically, these after-school programs were for high poverty, low-performing schools often that those students were coming from. 2 other programs are supporting professional development for educators, and another program supports students who are learning English.
Okay, so let's go back to the impacts for Austin ISD specifically. We heard from the superintendent. He had a chance to send out a letter to families, and what did he say in that?
Well, the superintendent, Matias Segura, said that he's not assuming that these funds will be released. We should say that there is reporting that's coming out from the New York Times and Politico saying that at least one of these grant programs, the federal government has finished its review. And the grant program they're talking about is that after-school program. And from the reporting that we're seeing, those funds could be released as early as today. We've reached out to the White House, we've reached out to the Department of Education and TEA for further information on that. So I do want to say that. But he's saying these other programs, again, millions of dollars that the district relies on, he's really assuming that it's not going to be released, and at least not going to be released in a timely manner. So he's had a meeting, he had it on Thursday last week with more than 100 staff members who are directly impacted by these programs. They help run these programs. And he said that by August 1st, they're hoping to understand the adjustments that they're going to have to make. And if they find that that person will no longer be employed, they'll stop being employed by the district by August 15th. And they're saying really without the federal funding, they do not have alternative funding to make these programs work. I mean, let's think about what we've heard about Austin ISD in the last year or so. They've been in a deficit. They've been able to reduce it some, but they're looking at consolidating. They're looking at closing schools. So they do not have alternative funding to make up for the federal funding that would have been running these programs. And we also reached out to the Texas American Federation of Teachers, and they told us that they're also hearing this reporting that that one grant for after-school programs, that's going to be released. But they said they still have really big concerns about the other funding. They said this is vital money that school districts need, and they really said that without this money and even just the delay of it, it causes chaos within the school districts. They've already, like I said, budgeted this out. So without it, they're having to kind of look ahead and make decisions based on unknown factors. And so they're really concerned, and we're continuing to follow up with them.
Well, it is all coming as well before the first day of the new school year is about to start as well.
Exactly. I mean, this is coming up for them, and they need some certainty. At least that's what we're hearing from the school districts.
Well, Kelly, thanks so much for following this, and I know you'll keep at it.
Thank you so much.